Hi, it's Christina from the Sisyphean Journal. Today's November 28th, 2020. And one of the things I'm thankful for this Thanksgiving weekend is a find I'm going to share with you today. It is a more or less mainstream article critical of the abortion establishment. So I'm going to link below to a video I did recently. I thought with all of the excitement about corrupt state officials, it might be a good time for me to cover uh, the corruption that enables abortionists that are really disgusting to flourish in our wonderful sunshine and unicorns land of safe and legal abortion. And one of the things I found that had me feeling like an ornithologist that might have spotted a passenger pigeon is this article, The Next Gosnell, Reckless Rogue Abortionists and What We Can Learn from Them. And it's in Slate. Now, granted, Slate is not like Newsweek or the Washington Post or someplace that is a major source of information for a huge number of people, but it is predominantly left leaning. Now, fortunately, Slate does like to buck the trend once in a while, and they certainly did it with this piece. I only glanced over it so that I can give you an honest reaction to what I'm seeing. So let's have a look at the next Gosnell. And it's dated February 25th, 2011, which is kind of when the Gosnell stuff was really hitting the fan. Don't let the fact that it's an old article make you feel like it's no longer relevant. I can tell you that the patterns that you see with the abortion lobby, with abortion clinics, with how the press handles it, with how politicians handle it, it's been a constant. This is the way things have been ever since the drive for widespread legalization of abortion on demand started becoming mainstream in the late 60s and early 70s. It's all been, like I said, if we legalize, it'll be sunshine and unicorns. Let's see what Slate had to say. The problems exposed in Florida's fight over abortion clinics, state neglect, pro-choice denial, and the relegation of abortion to the shadows of medicine didn't end there. They have surfaced in other states too. Well, yeah, they surfaced in other states, kind of the way algae sometimes surfaces in your fish tank. Let's look and see about the state neglect and pro-choice denial. What do they have to say about those? State neglect. Sisterhood of Silence, a bad abortion clinic, a dead woman, and a wall of pro-choice denial. Okay, so this was talking about September 1989, so this is back in 1989. A month after the Pennsylvania's Health Department conducted its next to last inspection of current Gosnell's clinic, the Florida House Health Committee met to prepare for an upcoming special session. The session was going to enact several anti-abortion bills, including tighter regulation of clinic safety. He wanted to make Florida a pro-life showcase, and pro-choicers intended to stop him. Testifying before the committee, clinic owner Patricia Windle condemned legislation that would give state inspectors broad access to abortion facilities. She declared, we hear this all the time, regulation is a euphemism for an excuse to interfere and opportunity to burden. Yes, cat crap, get it off the floor is just a burden. Beneath that hard line, there were signs of trouble. Duh. So let's see. I think this is probably going to be about the Dadeland thing. Okay. Oh, wow. One member of the committee, Democratic State Rep Ben Graber, knew of the shortcomings firsthand. Graber was an OB/GYN. He performed 15 or 20 abortions a month. The reason I became involved in abortion is the inadequacy of abortion services. Okay. These lay people are opening clinics and hiring half-trained doctors to do them. The problem, he said, was systemic. Yes, here it is. When the discussion turned from his role as physician to his role as lawmaker, Graber clammed up. On September 14th, the director of the Florida Catholic Conference told the committee that a licensed doctor had lethally botched abortions at the Dadeland Abortion Clinic near Miami. Graber and the committee chairwoman cut off the speaker and dismissed his story. 2 days later, Voice for Choice, a coalition of abortion rights activists, mass mailed a Dear Colleague letter signed by Graber on his private practice stationery, asking doctors to contribute $250 to the pro-choice lobby to block new areas of physician liability and unwarranted state intrusion in their profession. Okay, so yep, this is about the major, let's say, military grade cock-up that was Dadeland. Okay, so I kind of covered this. It was disgusting. It was Dadeland. So you can follow the link and you can read the story. Yep. That's the Dadeland debacle was the one the Miami Herald covered, where Florida Abortion Council leader Janice Compton-Carr talked about Dadeland. She said, "In my gut, I am appalled at what goes on at that place, but see if I remember her words exactly. I am staunchly opposed to any effort to correct that situation in law." Okay, and what reporters and health inspectors found in the worst abortion clinics. And again, that was 1989. So this is pretty much resurrecting Dadeland and probably Blue Coral. So why hasn't the state noticed these conditions before? Coulter pointed to a 1982 order by a federal judge which had struck down most of Florida's authority to police abortion clinics. This was fine with FLAC, Florida Abortion Council. The council said it wouldn't accept further regulations, even if they simply codified those already required by the privately run National Abortion Federation. So, I love this. No matter how many regulations you write, people are going to operate illegally, argued FLAC's president. The owner of the Dadeland clinic urged pro-choicers to stand together against Martinez. Do you see that we're being harassed, she asked the press. Do you see that it's the governor doing this? Tips from former patients and clinic workers began flowing into HRS. On September 27th, HRS inspected and shut down a second clinic. There was actually a suction device in this place that had green mold growing on it. I think that might have been blue. Yes, this was Blue Coral. There wasn't any soap in the place, so our inspectors had to go next door to wash their hands. Blood coated the stirrups on the operating table. Dirty emergency equipment was found in the bottom of a packed closet. So yeah, definitely go to the Slate article and read the things they link to. Again, this is the immediate wake of the whole Dadeland debacle. And they totally, that's why this channel is called the Sisyphean Journal. They'll uncover it. They'll see, yes, this is a huge problem. Yes, the abortion lobby is working to make sure that nobody can come in and fix it. Let's get our knickers in a twist, promise we're going to fix it, and then just kind of let it die away and don't worry about it. Okay. Yeah, so September 2nd, 1989, 2 weeks before the Miami Herald expose in Florida, the Boston Globe disclosed that Dr. Harold Silverman, owner of Massachusetts' biggest chain of abortion clinics, had admitted to sexual misconduct with a female patient. I knew about him. I didn't know that he owned the biggest chain of clinics. Based on the patient's complaints, Silverman had lost his authority to admit patients to nearby hospitals in the event of complications. Despite this, he continued to perform abortions. Well, we already know the abortion lobby says that it's totally outrageous to require that abortionists be competent enough that they can admit their patients to the hospital. Unlike other providers in the area, Silverman used dubious advertising tactics, refused Medicaid patients, that's unusual, and apparently reaped huge profits. Yeah, Although his 3 clinics handled more than 10,000 abortions per year, he disguised them as doctors' offices, thereby evading the state's abortion clinic regulations. Okay, so I think when they're saying disguising them as doctors' offices, I think what he's saying, and I'll link below, I talked about the death of a patient I called Adele at a fake clinic. And what that is a doctor will name his or her office, his private practice, something that sounds like a clinic. In the case of Adele, it was Landmark Women's Center. Landmark Women's Center does not sound like it is a doctor's private office. It sounds like it's a clinic, therefore, like it is inspected. Although, as we saw in Florida, as we saw in Pennsylvania, that doesn't mean a whole lot, but still, it's a fake clinic. So he just legally had his clinics. They were just his private practice. Like the exposed clinic operators in Florida, Silverman portrayed his unmasking as an attack on abortion rights. Okay, whenever you are hearing this, whenever there are any attempts to regulate, the abortion clinics will get together and scream that this is what I call a targeted regulation of abortion practices, stands for trap. They're just trying to trap you. They're just trying to, yeah, make sure that there aren't flea-infested cats crapping on the floor. Oh my God, what horrible people. And as in Florida, the Globe found that colleagues had known of his misconduct as well as his generally bad reputation, but had kept it secret. The question was, who was going to tell? An anonymous source in the pro-choice community told the Globe. Do we go public with it and hurt the whole movement? Or do we keep quiet and deny women the chance to make an informed choice about who does their abortion? You can guess which side they go on. A spokeswoman for Mass Choice, the state affiliate of the National Abortion Rights Action League, was outraged at the secrecy? Whoa! The fact that he is still practicing after he's admitted assaulting a woman is frightening, and I certainly want to know more about who knew and why they didn't say anything. Yes! If they think that they were protecting the abortion rights movement, they could not have been more wrong. They certainly were not protecting the women of this state. Oh my God, I spotted a passenger pigeon. Oh my gosh, a spokesperson for a state affiliate of a national pro-choice organization. Now, was this just window dressing? Did this spokesperson stand firm and say, we need to make sure that women are informed about the quality of care a particular facility provides? I doubt it. A few days later, Chicago abortionist Arnold Bickham was arrested for practicing medicine less than a year after losing his license for gross malpractice. Yeah, I know all about Arnold Bickham. He was the one who performed the fatal abortion on Sylvia Moore, New Year's Eve it was in the 1980s. She was hemorrhaging. He shoved her out, literally shoved her out the door to bleed to death, stuck her in a wheelchair, pushed her out the door because she was too weak to walk. In the malpractice case, a woman had hemorrhaged and gone into shock after an abortion at Bickham's clinic. According to testimony at his license revocation hearing, Bickham called the woman lazy and shoved her out the door in a wheelchair. Before that, the state had suspended Bickham's license for performing abortions on women who weren't pregnant and sometimes without proper anesthesia, blah, blah, blah. This was all covered in the Chicago Sun-Times Abortion Profiteers series. Again, that's why this is a Sisyphean journal. There'll be this big blow up, this expose. Oh my God, can you believe this is going on? There'll be some chatter for a couple of months, and then it all goes back to normal, which is abortionists doing whatever the hell they please. And if pro-choicers find out about it, oh God, you mustn't say anything. It'll make abortion look bad. No one can be sure how rare these offensives were since abortion clinics in Illinois hadn't been regulated or inspected for 4 years, thanks to a court injunction like the one in Florida. Okay, when I can guarantee you, when pro-choice activists band together to lobby for anything regarding abortion, it's circling the wagons to protect abortion practices. It's to protect the clinics. It's to protect the organizations. And if the women suffer and die, well, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. I said it before, the women in question are just so much grist for the abortion mill. Would your typical pro-choice organization prefer that abortion be performed safely? Yes, if for no other reason, then it really sucks when once in a while a Kermit Gosnell or an Arnold Bickham or a Dadeland emerges and people get their knickers in a twist about it and start to talk about regulating and start to talk about actually holding abortion clinics accountable for what they do to women. Honestly, I think it's the amount of trouble it causes more than the dead woman. Got to be honest with you. If you look at their behavior, the thing that bothers them when abortion practice is appalling isn't what happened to the women. It's, oh my God, now we got to deal with all this bad publicity. Now we got to spend a whole lot of money lobbying. Oh, we got to take out ads. We got to hold rallies. We got to lie through our teeth about how this is just a rogue outlier and it's not at all representative of the fine, stalwart providers of reproductive health care services in our fine state. Yeah. Another horror story surfaced in Maryland a week after the Florida fight began. A woman lapsed into respiratory trouble while undergoing anesthesia for an abortion at the Hillview Women's Medical Surgical Center. Yes. Now, this might be Suzanne Logan, who her anniversary of her death is December 1st. So the video about her is coming up. Or it might be Deborah Gray. Suzanne was in a coma for 4 months. When she came out of the coma, she was mute and paralyzed and could only talk through a Canon communicator, which, she would type on. It was kind of a prototype of the speech generator that Stephen Hawking used, only it just typed out. It didn't speak out loud. Or it could be Deborah Gray, who died much more promptly. Let's see. A woman lapsed into respiratory trouble while under anesthesia for an abortion at the Hillview Women's Medical Surgical Center. Despite having no anesthesiologist on hand, the clinic's medical director continued the operation. The patient went into cardiac arrest and died. So that's Deborah Gray. A year later, a similar crisis developed. Again, there was no anesthesiologist. This time, clinic workers tried to revive the woman with the wrong drug and couldn't get the clinic's emergency oxygen equipment to work. The woman was left paralyzed, unable to walk or talk. 3 years later, she died. Yeah, that's Suzanne. The clinic's owner, Barbara Lofton, blamed reports of her recklessness on the pro-life views of the local paramedic chief. Yes, if you have a problem with us killing women, you're obviously one of those horrible, terrible, no good, very bad right to lifers, because they're the only ones who actually care whether the woman comes out alive or not. He denied that he held such views. Months later on 60 Minutes, Lofton's former employees and patients alleged that she practiced medicine without a license and nearly killed a patient by botching her abortion. That's a rabbit trail I'm not going to go down right now. CBS correspondent Meredith Vieira reported that many pro-choice leaders knew about the problems at Hillview, but didn't want them publicized. National Abortion Federation head Barbara Radford admitted she was just hoping we would go away. And you will see, come back on December 1st and hear all about that gruesome little tale. Nor were these leaders eager to address the underlying problem. Maryland had no laws for abortion clinics or outpatient surgery centers. Okay, Feminists for Life, actually, there was a law that passed in Maryland that Feminists for Life dubbed the Abortionist Promotion and Protection Protection Law, the bad apple. Abortionist Promotion and Protection Law, the bad apple. It was like, not only are we not going to inspect these places, but in order to sue, the woman has to prove that they intended to injure her. I mean, it was that degree of appalling. Anesthesia and emergency medicine in these facilities were unregulated. That was why Lofton moved her clinic to Maryland when the District of Columbia ordered her to stop performing abortions without a clinic license. A pro-choice legislator in Maryland, I think that's Mary Burgers, had sought to regulate clinics, but met resistance from her colleagues. Yep, Mary Burgers. There's only so much of a willingness to try to push the pro-choice movement to do what I think is the responsible thing to do, because then they treat you as if you're the enemy. Over the years, similar cases have turned up in other states. Sorry for my washing machine on spin, but it's Saturday. Pennsylvania's Kermit Gosnell scandal may be the latest and biggest of these regulatory failures, but it isn't the only one. And I am going to tell you what happened in Kermit Gosnell's clinic was a matter of not of type, but of scope. Saying that Kermit Gosnell's clinic was the most disgusting is kind of like saying that one particular diversity and inclusion training was the most racist. Okay, there are diversity and inclusion trainings that aren't racist, but you're not the least bit surprised if they are racist. And to single one out as the most racist, well, worse, it's the most bad apple in a rotten lot. On Wednesday, the Attorney General of Delaware, Beau Biden, again, I just recently covered, was Beau Biden actually an honest Biden, or was he going through the motions to get people off his back so that then all of this could blow over? The Attorney General of Delaware, Beau Biden, filed 5 complaints against 2 Delaware doctors and a clinic owner for impersonating a physician, prescribing controlled substances without a license, and failing to report what they knew about Gosnell. And I'm looking into that right now. I'm getting in touch with some pro-lifers in Delaware who were pushing for Biden to follow through with this. And I'm going to get straight from the horse's mouth from the inside what kind of responses they got from Biden's office. 3 weeks ago, the Philadelphia Inquirer reported Pennsylvania's system of oversight, or lack of it in the grand jury's view, may not be unusual. For 5 months last year, New Jersey regulators received complaints that abortion doctor Steve Brigham, 54, was running a secret cash-only late-term abortion business using a risky interstate scheme, one for which he was disciplined in the 1990s. Yes, Stephen Chase Brigham, he gets smacked down and rises from the ashes like a malevolent phoenix. Just as in Gosnell's case, regulators took no public action against Brigham until a police raid forced them to. Actually, at his clinic, a woman died because of the lax oversight. I don't know if they're going to get to that or not. The Gosnell and Brigham cases, according to the Inquirer, illustrate a host of problems, including a feeble complaint system, spotty clinic inspections, poor communication among oversight agencies, and the reluctance of doctors to punish their own. And that's something that applies not just to abortion. Medical boards are just doctors, and they're typically appointed. So they're not just doctors, they're doctors with political connections. And they tend to close ranks. For a medical board to really be able to adequately oversee medicine, there need to be patients on the board overseeing it. And I would see it kind of like during election, you're supposed to have people from all parties involved in the elections overseeing it and looking, okay, does that signature match? Okay, you're counting that as a vote for candidate A. Was that really a vote for candidate A? I think that we need to have something similar to a jury system where citizens are just called up, given the opportunity to be paid to sit in on these hearings, because there is stuff these people get away with that would curl your hair. There are doctors that are drug addicts. There are doctors that commit atrocious malpractice. And pretty much as long as they go, oh, I'm so sorry. I promise I will learn from your wise chastisement of me, and I will do better in the future. They're there to protect the doctor's license. Okay. Brigham's case is still unfolding. Allegedly, he circumvented state regulations by inducing labor in New Jersey and completing the abortion in Maryland. Gosnell allegedly used a similar tactic in Delaware. Now, here the author is kind of misunderstanding what was happening. He wasn't inducing labor. What they do the first day is they insert laminaria, which are these dried sterile seaweed sticks, and they dilate the cervix so that when you induce labor, she's already very nearly fully dilated, and they precipitate, as they said in Gosnell's clinic. Steve Massoff, the non-licensed other doctor who worked there, said that it would rain fetuses. One woman had to be airlifted to a Baltimore hospital to treat critical injuries from the procedure. When the police raided Brigham's Maryland clinic, they found no medical records for the patient. But in another grim parallel to the Gosnell case, they found 35 late-term fetuses and fetal body parts, all also without records. Despite the raid, a trail of botched abortions, and license suspensions in New York and New Jersey, Brigham is still operating clinics in New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Last year, Pennsylvania's Department of Health, fresh from the gruesome discoveries at Gosnell's uninspected facility, approved Brigham's transfer of his clinics to his mother's company, therefore helping him evade an order that was supposed to bar him from owning abortion clinics in the state. The order forbidding clinic ownership does not apply to Brigham's mother's company, a health department spokesman told the Inquirer. And Brigham is one of those mysteries. I have absolutely no idea why, but when he first surfaced in Pennsylvania, yeah, he was kind of quacky, but he wasn't particularly appalling. And yes, he was guilty of false advertising. He said that he used only female physicians, but he was the only doctor. Planned Parenthood helped the pro-lifers run him out of the state. He voluntarily surrendered his license in order to stop any further investigation into the goings-on at his clinic. And I contacted Planned Parenthood and I said, why did you help with clamping down on this guy? And, oh, because he's a bad doctor. And it's like, that can't be the answer, because there's plenty of bad doctors that you're like, yeah, whatever. To this day, I don't know why they helped us gang up on Brigham. And in New Jersey, he was he had lost his license and was arguing to get it back. And Michael Burnhill, who was medical director of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, actually testified on his behalf. And Brigham had originally been recruited into abortion by a Planned Parenthood drive to recruit and train abortionists. So he's definitely their baby. They recruited him. He actually had patients die at his stop smoking clinic. This guy, he was ripe fruit for the picking as far as abortion clinics go. And guess where Brigham opened his latest franchise? Florida! There's nothing in Florida law that would prevent Dr. Brigham from having part ownership in these entities, a spokeswoman for Florida's health regulation agency told the Inquirer. Unless there are specific allegations, such as practicing medicine in Florida without a license, there's nothing for the agency to investigate. So 20 years after the clinic regulations fight in Florida, it seems that little has changed. In Pennsylvania, the outlook is better. The state's oversight of Gosnell was awful, but last year, embarrassed by some of his exposure, officials inspected Pennsylvania's other 22 clinics and found only minor deficiencies. I am a little questioning that just a tad. Prodded by the grand jury report, the state's new governor, Tom Corbett, so it was Tom Ridge who said, stop inspecting clinics. Then Tom Corbett, who is supposedly moving to fix the system. And now we've got Tom Wolf. What is it with Pennsylvania and governors named Tom? Is moving to fix the system. Last week, he fired several state officials faulted by the grand jury, and he imposed new rules similar to the ones defeated in Florida. Abortion clinics will be inspected every year, and the two agencies that monitor doctors and clinics will be networked. Well, that's just reverting back to what was supposed to have been happening in the first place. That's no guarantee they're actually going to follow through. Corbett, like Florida's Bob Martinez, is pro-life, but unlike Martinez, Corbett has imposed his rules by executive order rather than legislation, and he has avoided turning clinic safety into a broader political fight. This is not a pro-life, pro-choice issue, Corbett declared as he announced the new procedures. This is a public safety issue. True. Abortion rights advocates, in their turn, have held their fire. Yeah, because Gosnell was so disgusting that it's hard to say that there was no need to go in and fix things. Dale Steinberg, president of Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, said Corbett's rules will help women feel more confident about the current standards being enforced. So, what's it going to take to make sure we're not having Dadelands and Gosnells and Bighams? It's going to take pro-choice people being diligent. Right now, the abortion lobby periodically goes in and does sting operations on pro-life pregnancy centers to find that they're telling women things that are at worst disputed. Like the link between abortion and an increased risk of breast cancer is pretty clear cut. However, it's not as solidly documented as the link between smoking and lung cancer. So if a pro-life clinic brings it up, they go, "Oh, she's giving false and misleading information to this woman." No, she's just giving information that you don't think women should hear. And just in case you're wondering, abortion, breast cancer, the believed causal link is that cancer tends to erupt in cells that are rapidly reproducing. And during pregnancy, the breast tissue is rapidly increasing, rapidly growing, getting ready to feed the baby. And unlike a miscarriage or a delivery, where there's a hormonal process that the body goes through to slow that down and halt it, abortion just, bam, cuts off those hormones. So it's believed that it's that hormonal jolt, that sudden withdrawal without winding down properly, that leaves the breast tissue primed to grow and thus at risk of causing breast cancer. So this article was a rehash of stuff that I already knew, but it's really, really good that Slate at least brought it to the attention of a bunch of people who otherwise wouldn't have seen it. I'm going to link to it below. I recommend that you read it. I recommend that you follow the links. It is far more important that pro-choice people red pill on this, that pro-choice people who have credibility within their social circle, within their political circle, really hold firm that the safe part of safe and legal should not be empty words. Safe and legal is like new and improved. It's a slogan. It can't be a reality until people who think abortion is okay are also insistent that abortion be safe for the women. Pro-lifers can never achieve that because we get shot down as, "You're just trying to restrict women's access." It needs to be people who really do want abortion to be readily available going after these clinics. You are the only people who have any credibility. You are the only people who are able to do anything about this. Please, 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 red pill on this. Start holding the press, the government, the legislators, the bureaucrats, and most importantly, the abortion rights groups. Hold their feet to the fire and demand that they take the safe part of safe and legal as seriously as they take the legal part of safe and legal.